as independent states and ordered troops into those areas. During a rare emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council, the U.S. ambassador warns Russia's deployment is a pretext for war.
He calls them peacekeepers. This is nonsense. We know what they really are.
In response, President Biden signed an executive order imposing sanctions on the two Russian separatist regions of Ukraine. The order prohibits new investment, trade, and financing in those areas.
Mr. Speaker,
Britain and other key allies will begin imposing sanctions immediately.
News 10 NBC on the radio. Weekdays at 5 a.m., noon, 5, 6, and 11 on the WYSL stations.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right. Us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
That is right. It is your lunchtime free solution. Not a free lunch, but some free talk, some free opinion. My name is Craig Miles. I'm in for Larry Sharp today. Larry is down in D.C. with his daughter. He actually made an appearance on Tim Pool last night. So he's spreading the good word all over the place. He made an appearance on Kennedy last week, trying to spread the word about freedom and life and happiness and all of those things. So my name is Craig. I'm very happy to be here with you on WYSL and WACK Newark. If you saw the posts, right, that teased this broadcast, the title is "This is Fine, I'm Helping. Who Wins When Government Steps In?" I'll give you the hint of the decade. It's not who they say they're helping. It's usually themselves or a friend, or even if it's not themselves and they're not benefiting monetarily or in any other way, they're benefiting from the feeling that they're doing something, the feeling that they're helping. It makes them feel good, which is why it's so important to see how policies are actually affecting things and not just do it because it feels good. And if I keep doing it, well, my intention was to help these people. So I wrote this law, I enacted these policies to help these people. So it's a good thing by default. I don't need to see what it's actually doing. I don't need to see the effects that it's having. I know my intention was to help. So my point in saying that is, even if it's not malicious, even if they're not trying to take advantage of people, they might still be causing issues and feeling good about it because that is the point. They just want to feel good. And that's okay if people have an option to, not take part in that. But unfortunately, with government programs, sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you have to take part. And even if you don't subscribe to it or you're not directly affected by it, the policies and the things that the government is pushing, they are affecting you, whether you can see it or not. So that's kind of the opinion of the show today, is that whatever they're saying they're doing, the government and other organizations, always question, okay, that's what you're saying. Is that what you're doing? And what are you doing? And what effects is it having on me? And the reason that I picked this topic today is because, oh my God, what is going on? Every day, it's outrageous news. It's just outrageous. Truckers getting towed in Canada now. Did they win? Did they lose? Does Trudeau care? I heard they just voted to extend the emergency powers for him. And that was all a political move because he says, well, I'm going to quit. And people, I heard Glenn Beck talking about this. You would think people would say, good, quit. You suck. Well, apparently, if you're a liberal, so under a parliamentary system, I don't know enough about this, but this is what I had heard from Glenn Beck. That triggers an election immediately, and the left is not winning currently. People don't feel very good about the left. So if Trudeau was to quit, that would mean elections, and that would mean the left in Canada would probably lose. So they decided to go with Trudeau, to vote with Trudeau to extend these powers, because otherwise he says, I'm quitting, I'm going home, you guys deal with it. And they would have gotten slaughtered, and they couldn't have that. So even in something as important as emergency powers to decide whether the government can freeze your bank account, it's all political. It's all for the gains of Justin Trudeau or well, I don't know what their titles are in Parliament. Whoever that guy is that likes Trudeau. The point is, it's not actually about the issue. It's about, well, what does this issue do for me? How does this affect me? How does it affect my run? How can I get back into power? How can I keep control of the power? And the issue becomes secondary. So the answer usually is they are not helping. Whatever they claim to do, it's not helping you. It's not helping me. It's helping them. So that's kind of how I wanted to start that off. And we've got some specific examples from history and from today. The truckers being one of them. Build Back Better being another. COVID being a big one. Now all of a sudden, all of these restrictions that were very important to save us all, they're not quite as important anymore, because now I got to get elected. And Larry called this. If you were watching him even 6 months ago, he said, I think we're going to see the end of this. I didn't believe him when he said it. So I think we're going to see the end of this. It's going to get to be like the middle of the summer, and we're going to need to get out of these so that people feel good so that they can get reelected. And I think you'll see. I thought it was just going to go on forever. Larry was right. Now the science is changing. Now policies are changing. Now we're going to get out of the pandemic, because it was no longer politically feasible to keep stomping people's necks into the ground. And that is what I've always talked about, is the tail wags the dog. The tail wags the dog. Ultimately, it took us 2 years to get fed up with it. We're fed up with it. The political ruling class is acknowledging that finally, and they're trying to backpedal and give us what they should have never taken away from us in the first place. Got some comments going on here. David Davis, he says, I have a feeling he'll extend it another 30 days and keep doing so until Canadians get used to it. And David brings up a great point, which is there's never something so permanent as a temporary government program. I think it was Reagan that said that. You see it with the masks. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you saw a guy with a mask, you'd say one of two things. What's wrong with him? And well, maybe he's got, maybe he's got some issues. Maybe he's sick. Now it's just accepted. I got to wear my mask, and that's what I do to make others feel better. It doesn't really matter whether they work or not. It's part of the costume that I put on to exist in society. It's become the norm for a certain segment. So I think he's right. A lot of these policies that are enacted for 15 days to flatten the curve, they end up being permanent and accepted. And that's how we've gotten to where we've gotten. That's how we've gone from tarring and feathering tyrants to turning on CNN every day and seeing what the tyrants tell us to do for the day. It's by little incremental steps like that. It's by programs introduced every year, every month, every week that claim to do something or are done to fix something. And then it is shown that it didn't affect it the way that it was supposed to. And they say, well, it's a program. It was intended to do this, so we're going to keep doing it. It's completely divorced from the actual things that it is trying to accomplish, which you see with the drug war, which I talked about last week. How many people are dying of overdoses now? What was the crack explosion in the 80s? Now it's the heroin epidemic and fentanyl. It's just a new thing. We've been fighting the war on drugs actually since Prohibition ended. All of the people that were fighting for the government for Prohibition, we decided, well, I guess people are just they're gonna drink alcohol no matter what, and we kind of messed everything up with this whole Prohibition thing, and it's created organized crime, and it hasn't really been like a great thing for us. So maybe we'll stop that. Well, the problem is you had a lot of people now who are part of that system, a part of that that enforcement wing of the government that was created to fight revenuers, or I'm sorry, they were the revenuers, created to fight the people selling the alcohol. Now I've got a lot of people that rely on that for their job, for their sense of purpose, for their well-being. If I all of a sudden make alcohol legal, well, those people are out of a job. They're out of a purpose. But if I say, you know what, we got this reefer madness thing going on. It's really bad. People smoke this stuff and they go and they commit murders and it's horrible. And that's the next thing that we got to attack. Now, all the people that were chasing people for alcohol crimes, now I can go and I can chase people for marijuana crimes. And then you get further in, and Nixon, he hates the hippies and he hates the African Americans. I shouldn't say hates. He finds it politically expedient to try to silence these people with whatever means he can use. And that so happens to be this gigantic enforcement arm of the DEA and things like that. So let's sick them on all those pot smoking hippies. Okay. Just say no with Nancy Reagan and with Ronald Reagan. Just say no. Just don't do drugs. Simple. Meanwhile, I'm going to fund things like the Iran-Contra scandal, and I'm going to fund cocaine in the West Coast, in LA, and I'm going to create this gigantic boom because people need jobs and they need a purpose. And it's actually a self-fulfilling prophecy because as I make things worse, I've got more of a job to try to clean up the thing that I made worse. So it's great. It's good for business. And we get caught in a cycle. The wheel just keeps grinding and grinding and grinding, and we don't check in and we don't ask and we don't hold the policies accountable for the effects that they're actually having. And that is what is important. That is what a third party is supposed to do. That is what people like Joe Rogan are supposed to do. People like this, places like the station, trying to spread the word. And that's what we're trying to do. We'll be back after the break. WACK-WYSL, a free solution.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly.
Hey, Craig, your mic's low on the hot side. You're hitting the red. If you could turn it down a bit, please.
Cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe.
Yeah, when we first connected, I didn't notice it, but when you get on the air is when I notice it. So other than that, everything's good.
They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Oh, those injury attorney ads.
Hurt on your couch? Call 555-OUCH.
It's kind of cute watching that injury attorney buying breakfast for a crash test dummy, but while fun is fun, there's nothing amusing about getting your life back together after a personal injury or a motorcycle accident, or when you need defense for a DWI charge. Christopher Johnson takes your case seriously, and you'll feel like you're his only client because when you meet with him, your case gets 100% of his attention. So instead of cute singing jingles and magic phone numbers,
fall out of a tree? Call 33333.
write this number down and...
By the way, ironically, when you were in that segment on the Channel 10 news here, they were showing a story. Jim Boeheim has asked for a drop of the mask mandate at the Carrier Dome.
On your legal team.
Yeah, so I thought you'd find that interesting.
Drive sober. Christopher Johnson, attorney, personal injury, car or motorcycle accidents, DWI defense.
As a veteran of the United States military, I can finally get the...
Yeah, and I mean, someone like Jim Boeheim coming out to speak about it, I mean, it just says, there's nothing to worry here. Move on, folks, right?
to say thanks to a veteran and service member, we could give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Visit thattix.org. Find out how you.
Are you going to make any more reference to drugs coming back? Because I've got a funny movie clip I could play over the music.
WYSL1040.com, the official.
All right, so I'll let you know when you're potted up.
Coffee mugs depicting Mount Rushmore style.
Or actually, you know what it is? It's from my cousin Vinny. It's only like a 5 or 6, 7 clip where he says, "Are you on drugs?"
They're a great way for you to make a personal statement. Mount Rushmore.
Yep.
Locally produced
Stand
and
by.
sold only in the WYSL store at WYSL1040.com.
A free solution.
You on drugs?
Drugs? No, I don't take drugs.
I don't like your attitude.
What else is new?
I'm holding you in contempt of court.
Oh, there's a surprise.
Great film there, My Cousin Vinny. The great Joe Pesci. I am a big fan of that guy. We were talking about drugs at the beginning of the end of the last segment. We're going to start with drugs again, talking about them, not doing them. The war on drugs is just one of the examples of all of the failed policies over the years of the federal government in concert with the state government and local governments, because it all trickle down economics. Whatever you say about whether it actually works in the sense of money, always works in the sense of federal government because of money, because all the funds trickle down through the stratospheres of the governments, state, local, county. The feds say, do this or we take your funding. And we say, okay, we will prosecute drug offenders so hard, and we're going to end all the drugs, and it's going to be great. Because that time that we did that back in the 20s, it worked really well to get rid of alcohol. So we'll do it again, and it'll be great, and it's going to be wonderful. By the way, if you want to call and talk to me, tell me whether I'm wrong or right, or talk about anything, give us a call at the station. WYSL 346-3000 is the name, or is the number. So we'd love to hear from you. The war on drugs is just one of the examples. Another example is the New Deal. That thing that we learned in school was so great. It saved us. It said, you know what? We fall on hard times, but Uncle Frankie's got your back. He's going to come and he's going to fill out, all of these new deals for you. You're going to get a house. You're going to get paid. Everything's going to be better. That's the story that we're told. The first part of that story is that all of those evil free market businessmen crashed the economy and we had to ride in and save it. Turns out that's not the story at all. Surprise. Once you become, so this is not just specific to libertarians, but once you become, I use woke all the time, but I don't use it in the sense that it's actually used in. I'm trying to take back the word. Once you wake up to the situation that you find yourself in, as far as the government relates to its citizens, once you see what they're doing, it's very easy to guess how other things are going. You still don't have proof, maybe, but you can say, I've seen this before. This kind of looks like something I'm familiar. So my moment came with Edward Snowden when he spoke with Brian Williams, before Brian Williams was found to have been telling war stories that weren't true and about bodies floating in New Orleans. That's a different story. So before he went down in a blaze of glory, he interviewed Edward Snowden, and I saw for the first time maybe not the first time. This is when it really hit me. The lengths that the government will go to do evil, I guess you could say. Maybe that's not their intention. And sometimes it is, depending on the person. But that was really my first wake-up call. And after that, you can't go back to sleep. So every day of my life since then, I have spent learning that all of the things that I learned in public school have been tainted by their association with the government. So the story that we learned about the Great Depression, that was a little sidestep, but we'll get back to the real point, which is the stories that we're told are very important to forming our outlook on the world. And our children spend a lot of time learning a lot of stories in public schools that are unfortunately, if not fully, at least partially fabricated. And that's the case with the New Deal, with the stock market crash, with the Great Depression. Depressions and recessions and contractions are all part of an economy. They're all part of life. This is the other thing that kind of informs the way that I look at government or cycles. Everything is cyclical. Everything is cyclical. The seasons are cyclical. The temperatures are cyclical. Your mood is cyclical. It's peaks and valleys. It's ups and downs. And why would it be any different with the economy? It's not. It's no different. You're going to have times of prosperity, and you're going to have times of the opposite of that. Despair, sadness, maybe not quite that extreme. But the point is, there's always going to be fluctuations. It's always going to go up and down. And the Fed, the reason they told you the Federal Reserve was founded was to stop that. We'll never have another, we're going to control it. We're going to make sure that we reduce those fluctuations. Well, Federal Reserve is founded in 1913. Federal income tax comes along. They start taking all of our money. And within 15 years, they have the economy in the dumpster. And they say, this is the free market's fault. It wasn't. Surprise, surprise. I learned this literally today. This is the other thing, is the learning always goes. It keeps going. You never stop learning about all of the things that you thought were real and how they're not. So I always thought that Hoover was a big free market guy. Thought he was a great guy. Loved the free markets. Turns out, because that's the story, right? Hoover was a free market guy, laissez-faire, hands off. The economy crashed, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt came in and he saved us all, brought us out of the Depression, and the government was great. So I knew that half of the story was nonsense. I just learned today about the first half of the story. Also, well, I learned more about it being, I knew the whole story was a fabrication. Hoover implemented all sorts of social reforms while he was president. He did wage controls. He did the Smoot Hawley, I think is the name of the tariffs. Basically, he like doubled the percentage of the tariffs of incoming goods, but not as a percentage, as a number, right? $4 on this barrel of fish or whatever. So when the market did crash and fish now only costs $2, it was still a $4. It was literally 200% tax because it didn't come down as a percentage. It was still the same number. That's besides the point. The point is, Hoover had his fingers in all sorts of things trying to distort the market, and that ended up crashing a bunch of industry, because now I had to pay more for my wool goods. I had to pay more to build things. So now these industries go under. Now everybody's unemployed. So I try to create price, I try to fix prices of labor. I try to fix all of these things instead of just stopping the thing that caused it. And now the economy takes a dump. And before it did, Franklin Roosevelt, he ran as we got to get government out of the free market guy. I've got an excerpt here from the book that I'm reading that told me all of this, which is Great Myths of the Great Depression. It's by Lawrence Reed. And it says Franklin Delano Roosevelt won the 1932 presidential election in a landslide, collecting 472 electoral votes to just 59 for Herbert Hoover. The platform of the Democrat Party, whose ticket Roosevelt headed, declared, "We believe that a party platform is a covenant with the people to be faithfully kept by the party entrusted with power." It called for a 25% reduction in federal spending, a balanced federal budget, a sound gold currency to be preserved at all hazards, the removal of government from areas that belonged more appropriately to private enterprise, and an end to the extravagance of Hoover's farm programs. So that was another way that he was controlling things. He messed up all of the ag markets, so then he had to give welfare essentially to farmers. This is Franklin Delano Roosevelt saying these things. We got to get the big government. It's too big. We got to reduce spending. He said, this is what's going to help. I'm helping. This is what I'm going to do to help. I'm going to get rid of all of these socialist programs, and America's going to be better. That's what he said when he was running. The economy takes a dump. He gets into office, and what does he do? He multiplies all of those programs by 100-fold, and then says, "This is the answer. This is how I'm going to help," because it became politically expedient. He changed the story. 6 months before, he was saying socialism sucks. We got to have gold preserved at all hazards. Well, it turns out he made it illegal to possess gold. He took us out of the gold standard. He said, if you have gold, you can give it to us willingly and we'll pay you for it, or we're going to come and take it and throw you in jail. So choice is yours. And he had to do that because he wanted to inflate the currency, but he couldn't inflate it if it was still tied to gold. So he had to come and grab those. So he stole a bunch of money because the worth of the dollar declined by like 30%. He literally stole 30% of the value of that dollar. And he was helping. We're going to find more ways that the government helps us because we know they just care and everything is fine. It is a free solution. My name is Craig Miles. Thank you so much for joining me on WYSL WACK and for Larry Sharp today. Some of your questions and your comments after the break.
Celebrating 35 years.
WYSL.
AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. We'll see rain tapering to showers, staying very mild out there in the 40s and 50s. Temps will start to drop towards morning into the 30s. Much colder weather comes in on Wednesday. Temps will drop into the 20s in the afternoon. A gusty wind as well, maybe a couple of snow showers. Cold weather sticks around, but quiet Thursday. Snow looks likely on Friday. I'm Rich Cornelia, WYSL.
Power through winter driving challenges with a little help from Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Anthony Drive off Route 96 in Victor. Enjoy the warmth and security of America's favorite four-wheel drive vehicles, like the 21 Jeep Grand Cherokee L Limited 4x4, just $399 a month for 42 months. Must be Conquest lessee. The 2022 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 SUV, only $269 a month for 36 months. Must be returning or Conquest lessee. The 21 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Sahara 4x4 convertible is just $359 a month for 42 months. And a Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Yeah, so we can't play pop music because of YouTube, but we can get away with movie clips.
Grand Cherokee lease loyalty and be returning lessee. $2,500 cash or trade. $4,000 for Grand Cherokee L. First payment, DMV.
Oh, yeah, great movie.
Other conditions may apply. See dealer for details. We're here to.
I think Marissa Torme is funny.
Customers in Victor, Canandaigua, Macedon, Fairport.
Actually, just there's so many good actors in that one. But what are you coming back with this segment?
Tom Hamilton here, president of Hamilton Wealth Management. Let's talk about investment.
Okay, no problem. But yeah, anytime you have a specific topic, I have a good movie clip or soundbite from. I'll let you know.
Does this make any sense? Paying for something.
Yeah, when Cuomo was still governor, I had a whole bunch of Cuomo clips, just a lot of funny ones. And Larry just ate them up. He loved them.
Provider, including your broker, for a $2 million account with annual fees and commissions totaling 2.5%, you're paying $50,000 per year. That's a lot of money. Are you receiving that level of value? If you have over $250,000, I will personally review your investments, including an analysis of the actual cost. To schedule your no-cost review, call our Pittsford office at 381-9870 or contact us from our website, HamiltonWealthManagement.com. That's HamiltonWealthManagement.com.
Advisory services offered through Wealth Plan Partners. Securities offered through Securities America, Inc., member FINRA SIPC.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Shop Show World. Shop Show World magazines, DVDs, incense of all scents, water pipes, all types. Shop Show World. Lingerie, just your size to wear, and whenever you like. Couples games, toys for adults, so many, all kinds. Shop Show World.
It's Turnbull tune-up time for the colder weather. Ensure safe operation of your heating system. Increase energy efficiency. Help your system live longer. Let the professionally trained technicians at Turnbull perform a thorough 13-point precision tune-up on your home comfort heating system. Call now for the next available appointment. 1-800-330-2005. For an Avon, call 226-6180. Protect your heating system against breakdowns. Save on energy. Don't get caught cold. Get comfortable with the best. Turnbull Heating and Air.
Are you interested in volunteering? If you like history and giving tours and stuff like that, your friends at the National Warplane Museum in Geneseo, New York are looking for somebody just like you. Come see the opportunities we have available.
Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery has a great deal on Tuesdays. A large 4-topping pizza for $18, regular or gluten-free. Call 226-9575. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery in Avon.
A free solution.
Here we are again on A Free Solution. My name is Craig Miles, in for Larry Sharp today because he is doing campaign things down in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. We are on WYSL WACK Newark. You should give me a call, 585-346-3000. Glad to be here with you. Got a few comments in the chat here. John Barnett asks, would inflation be a thing if we never got off the gold standard? I'm not a very smart man, but reading MMT sounds like grown adults explaining how Santa's sleigh fills with reindeer power. So, John, to answer your question, I also, maybe I'm not as smart as some people are. I know I'm not, as a matter of fact. And that is the mark of someone who is not trying to be a politician, because they'll tell you they're the smartest guy. Trudeau, he's very smart. Joe Biden, also very smart people. The way that the gold standard works is it ties it to something that is real. So it's a lot easier to mess with it, because if the government now says, well, I got $1 billion, you say, no, you don't. You only have, $500 million in gold reserves. And there's something tangible there to point to. So when I get away from that, now the government says I have $1 billion, and you say, okay, well, show me why. They say, well, because I said so. So you ask if inflation would be a thing. Inflation would still be a thing. And I'm not an economist, but you don't get away without inflation. That's how it works. And then you have inflation and deflation, and it's all part of the cycle that I was talking about before. So anything that aims to stop the cycle, to flatten it, is not going to work. Because I saw it explained this way once. It's a balloon, and you squeeze it, and when you squeeze the balloon, it doesn't change the mass, or I'm sorry, it doesn't change the volume of the air in the balloon. It just sends it somewhere else. So if you're trying to artificially mess with the economy and you squeeze it in one section, and this is true with anything, if you're trying to achieve something with a policy and you squeeze the drug dealers or you squeeze the people doing drugs, now all of a sudden something gives somewhere else. This is why centralized control doesn't work how people think it will work, because there's always the unforeseen circumstances. There's always consequences to the actions that you didn't intend on. And we choose to ignore those sometimes. Well, we intended to do this, so therefore it's good. Okay. Are you going to stop it now that you know that it's not good? Well, no, we're not. Okay. Why? Why aren't you weighing in and checking in? And the answer is because I built this thing now that I can't stop, and it just grinds on, and it's good for me if it grinds on. So that is to answer your question, hopefully, or at least give you what I think about it. John Barnett also says Reagan was a tyrant. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think anyone that has been president has had a tyrannical streak, because they're literally telling you what to do all the time, right? And it's up to you to decide whether you listen or not. And if you don't listen well enough, well, they have ways. They have ways of doing those things. So the comment here in response to the smart people comment that I made, didn't you know that liberal politicians that went to an Ivy League school are the smartest people around? This gets to the crux of identity politics and believe the experts. And by the virtue of you being really smart or having a lot of papers on your walls or being the right color or the right the right sex or any of those things are an aspect of a complex person. And these people are neither heroes
Keith.
nor absolute villains.
Rochester.
And they exist as people outside of these labels that we put on them. And you should not believe someone simply because they're the right color or they are the right sex or they have the right degrees. You should believe them when the things that they say make sense. It's the appeal to authority sort of a thing. And you should always consider the source, and you should not blindly follow. Keith is calling in from Rochester. He's got an opinion on this, I'm sure. How are you, Keith?
Actually, I have a question for you that I've asked other people over the years, and I'd like your input. There's an old maxim that says, never bet against America. That being the case, and without me being naive and foolish, why in 1935 did the government set up Social Security so that people today receive those small, puny checks? Why did they not set up individual retirement accounts tied right to the Dow Jones? Even in the mid-30s, right during the heart of the Great Depression, everyone loosely should have known that we were going to come out of it. And if they had tied individual retirement accounts to the Dow Jones, people today would be getting fantastic returns instead of those smaller Social Security checks. The best feedback I could get back is that in the Depression days, people were so poor, they were too poor to have to wait for the individual accounts tied to the Dow to kick in, and it was just simpler to the government being the government to hand out free Social Security checks. But if they had really mandated individual retirement accounts that would have gone up with the growing Dow Jones index, the Dow today is in its mid-30,000s. What a fantastic growth that would have been for all recipients if their retirement accounts had been tied to the growing Dow index. And I'd like to have your answer why the government in 1935 did not do the right thing for all Americans, especially those going into retirement. If they had tied it to the Dow index, people today would be getting much higher returns than those would-be smaller Social Security checks.
Yeah, I think well, you bring up a few issues here. Why didn't they do it? Well, because if I tie it to a government, or if I tie it to an entity outside of the government, Now I don't control it. Now I don't get to take the credit, right? I can't say, well, I sent you my Trump check or I sent you my Joe Biden bucks. You say, well, Wall Street gave you some money. Well, I can't take credit for that. Also, I think there's a little bit of hindsight's 2020 on this. Nobody knew we were going to get out of the Depression because you had people telling them, well, the only way to get out is to follow me. And everybody said, okay. Your point about farmers too, or people in the rural areas. I don't care about my IRA in 50 years. I don't. My kids can't eat. I need help now. So it's kind of an instantaneous thing, instant gratification, instant results. I get to take responsibility for it. You said you opened that with never bet against America. There's a similar one in the financial industry that says never fight the Fed. And if you want to know why inflation is such a problem, and you want to know why the Federal Reserve funny money is such a problem, it's because these people don't make investments based on necessarily. They don't necessarily make investments based on what the best company is or what this is. They sit and they watch Federal Reserve policy and they say, the Fed is about to sink $1 trillion into this thing. Might as well ride the train. And that is what the banks do. That is what investment banks do. That is what hedge funds do. They look at and that's why Alan Greenspan or whoever the current Fed chair is, that's why when they get up there, people listen, and why they have so much control. Because if I'm a banker and I see the Fed's about to invest in this, or the Fed isn't going to invest in this, what am I going to invest in? Because I know they control it. I know that they control the amount of the money. So I might as well ride along. And I think I don't know to what extent that was going on in the 30s. But to answer your question, is they needed immediate results. I think that was probably why they went with that, because if I send a check or if I put you on welfare, I can show I actually did something. If I say, hey, this imaginary stock market thing that you probably don't really care about is going to give you a lot of money in 50 years, I'm going to say, I don't care. I need a chicken right now to eat because I weigh 50 pounds. So I think that's probably what the situation was there. It worked well for the government because they said we saved you, and it worked well for people because they were able to purchase things, or they were able to have the things that they needed. The problem is that it extended it. The recession took years more than it should have. The Depression took years more than it should have to get out of, because the government was playing central planner, trying to manipulate things that if they had let them run their course, then we would have been out of it much sooner.
Exactly correct. In closing, it took actual World War II, us going in after we were hit at Pearl, to fully bring us out of the Depression. There were times it looked like we were coming out, but it took the ramping up of us as the arsenal of democracy, the United States. Hopefully people remember that. We were, back then, we made things in America. We became the arsenal of democracy for the free world, and I wish we had that today. If we go to war today, we're going to have to basically count on our enemies to provide us with the weapons to defend ourselves. And my very final thought, how sad for all Americans to have to realize that whereas we used to manufacture things, today we are just one big service sector, and in a true calamity, that will not serve us well. And I'm very concerned about our country's future in that regard.
Yeah, I agree with you, Keith. I think it is a problem that we have put so much control of the things in our lives into outside institutions, whether that's federal in DC, or whether that's China that makes all of our goods, or whether that's the Russian oil, or this is a big problem for farmers right now, fertilizer. Costs are through the roof. And it just so happens that Russia makes a lot of our fertilizer, and we're about to go to war with them. Is that going to be good for farmers? Probably not. So I agree with you, Keith. I think we need to recultivate a society here that can rely on itself and make America first, right? To quote Trump. We'll talk more about that when we come back after the break on WYSL, a free solution, WACK Newark. My name is Craig Miles. Thank you for listening.
3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Dear Dr. Sussman.
Dear Dr. Sussman, I just wanted to write to all the wonderful people who work with Dr. Sussman and Dr. Pogel at the Center for Cosmetic Dentistry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Each person in the office made me feel my smile.
Not only am I
wasn't
completely happy with my smile, but I feel you've been there for me with all my dentistry
I've had
needs.
several dentists in my life, but never a dentist of your caliber. You have state-of-the-art.
You keep
dental
current in your field as evidenced by your numerous diplomas and certificates, and your entire staff is really the
I'm
cream of the
thrilled with the outcome of your skills and artistry. It's made such a difference in my life.
Dr. Sussman, Dr. Pogel, and the entire staff at the Center for Cosmetic Dentistry take great pride in providing not only advanced dental care, but extraordinary cosmetic dentistry. They love what they do and have a partnership with their patients toward long-term dental health.
For a bright, confident, beautiful smile.
Thank you, Dr. Sussman.
Thank you, Dr. Pogel.
Thank you.
Change your life, change your smile.
For more information, call the Center for Cosmetic Dentistry at 22 Smile or visit 22-smile.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
The WYSL store is now open, and your car's crying for an official Voice of Liberty bumper sticker. There's a great selection to help you show your love of God, liberty, and the Constitution. Here are just a few available right now. Shut up, Fauci. Kathy Hokum. No more masking. Open the freaking schools. Scam alert January 6th. No vax mandates. God, please help us. Close the Mexican border. Save America. Stop voting for Democrats. Support the Second Amendment, and your mask doesn't protect squat. But there's more. These are standard weather-resistant bumper stickers guaranteed to get you horn honks and thumbs up in traffic. Choose from other locally made WYSL Voice of Liberty merch too, like tees, hoodies, drinkware, and more. Perfect gifts for any Liberty lover you know. Be sure to check out the exclusive WYSL Mount Worstmore shirts, hoodies, and coffee mugs depicting our 4 worst presidents. Guess who's front and center? Be free, make a statement. Shop the WYSL store at WYSL1040.com.
A free solution.
Welcome back. Craig Miles with you on a free solution on WYSL and WACK in Newark. You can call in and yell at me or commiserate with me. 585-346-3000. Thank you to Keith for the call. And if there's anyone else there listening, please call in and discuss. I have a couple of comments here. Trump ain't a friend to the 2A, like he said, so I'll pass on Trump, says Logic. And I think that might have been in response to America First, the America First comment that I made. And I'm gonna take this, and Logic also made a comment in here about I'm sorry, I'm digging through here. Wow, there's a lot of discussion going on here. I can't find it, but I remember the gist of it. It was basically about, it doesn't matter how many degrees you have. A lot of people with a lot of degrees are dumb as a box of rocks. And that box of rocks comment was a direct quote from Logic. But I want to put those two together and talk about how, again, considering the source is important and ideas are just as important. So I can agree with Trump when he says America first as an idea. Maybe some of the ways that he wanted to make that happen were a little cringe. I sound weird saying that. I am not a Gen Z. I should not be using that word. So maybe some of the ways that he thought he could do it were not great, but as a general sentiment, I can say yes. If you're an American and you live in America, then America first is a good message. I can also say all those pointy-headed liberals that don't know anything down in DC with all the degrees, maybe they have some ideas sometimes that are worth listening to. My point is, it's not mutually exclusive. The kind of a person is, a person is, and their ideas. Sometimes bad people have good ideas. Sometimes good people have terrible ideas. And we should never take we should never just take one facet of an individual and make them a cartoon, because we could be missing out on learning something. At the same time, we should not be making people into heroes, because we could blindly follow them into some really terrible places and get behind some really terrible ideas. So that's what I got to say about that. Logic says, yep, perfectly quoted. So apparently I got most of the feeling that he had. So what do we do about this? It's all about parallel structures. It's all about, to get back to what Keith was saying, we've got to start relying on ourselves again. And Logic brought this up. He said, the more that people rely on themselves, the less they rely on the government. So why would the government want to promote that? And I think he's got his finger right on the issue there. So that is the way that we fight this. We make it so that it's difficult for the government to control you. And you do that by being free, by exercising your freedom. Unfortunately, they're going to push back. You saw it with the truckers in Ottawa. And now they're escalating it even further with the freezing of the bank accounts, and anyone who even thinks wrong about the truckers. Now we're going to freeze your bank account. And this is why the Fed is evil. This is why big banks and big business and all of these institutions, these big institutions that control everything, that are able to just shut your life off, that is not good. So you need to build a life outside of these institutions somehow, whether that's cryptocurrency, whether that's becoming more local, whether that's learning how to grow your own food. You have to start to realize that either this system is going to collapse, or it's just going to become so burdensome to operate within it that you have to figure out how to operate outside of it. And that's difficult. I can't be self-sufficient. There are things that I can do. I can grow food. I hunt, I try to learn as much as I can about self-reliance, but that was never how humans survived. We always relied on each other. And so you can't totally become a hermit and just live out in the woods. I mean, not everybody can do that. There's a few individuals that thrive at that. So you need to be small enough where you guys can band together and trust each other and do things to help one another. And you have to be able to do all of that outside of the influence of the state or the federal government or anything like that. So I'm going to end this show with the way that I end it always, which is make friends, always be listening, try to understand, try to learn, and try to see when anyone is selling you something, try to see where they're coming from. Maybe it's not where they say they're coming from, and watch what effects are they having. And if it's not for you, say it's not for me. No, thank you. And that can be tough. That can be tough because you might get ostracized. But in the end, the tail does wag the dog. And mandates are coming down. Trudeau's still up there fighting with the truckers, but they got rid of the mandates, at least a few of them. So if you don't push back and you don't build parallel structures,
1 minute,
you'll never get anywhere. So always do it and always fight for that and try, because you never know what might happen. They can't control everybody. They can't dangle carrots in front of everybody. They can squeeze the balloon, right? They can squeeze it in one section, but then it inflates over here. And things happen over here. And you run around trying to clean up messes all the time. And eventually it collapses on itself. So build yourself a circle of friends, a community, help one another, and get ready for when that system collapses on itself, because you won't even notice. Eventually, you'll say, you know what? That has nothing to do with me. And that is a free solution. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm back tomorrow in for Kevin Wilson on A Free Solution. Thanks so much for listening.
Heart disease.
All right, talk to you tomorrow, same time, same channel.
And people of most racial and
good job, bye.
In the United States. February is American Heart Month, a perfect time to remember to keep your heart